Hey there, I'm Jackie Ferris. They are some of the finest artists, composers, and choreographers in the state of Delaware. This week on the 302, we are at the Biggs Museum of American Art, checking out the Delaware Division of the Arts. Get ready for a creative and cool half hour. The 302 is headed your way. Hey everybody, we are at the Biggs Museum of American Art, where we always have a great time when we visit because there's so much beautiful art and creative things happening here. Today we're going to be talking about the Delaware Division of the Arts Fellowship and Award winners. We're joined by our good friend Laura Fravel, who is the curator. Laura, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for coming out today.
So tell us a little bit about, you guys do this. This is your 23rd year. Tell us a little bit about what exactly is the Delaware Division of the Arts Fellowship and Award winners.
Well, Delaware Division of the Arts actually gives cash awards to artists in the state. And it's a program that they do independently of us. We partner with them on this exhibition of the award winners. But they have this long application process where not only visual artists, but people who make films, writers, musicians can submit samples of their work. They're judged by people out of state, so nobody in this program is involved. I'm not involved in the judging. And then from the award winners, the state gives them cash awards. This year it was $5,000 for an emerging artist award, $8,000 for an established artist award, and $12,000 for the masters, the people who have been doing this for their careers. And that cash is intended to help them further their art, buy supplies if they need to, rent space, travel, help pay for photography exhibitions, whatever they need to further their craft.
And you really do have a wide range of things. And these are all Delaware residents?
These are all Delaware residents, yes.
That's amazing. Now, when you come into the exhibit, the one thing that really jumps out are these portraits by Bryant T. Bell. I mean, the Native American chief and some of what he considers unlikely heroes. Can you tell us about that?
I can, and I will say that was a little selfish on my part, that Bryant Bell is the only Dover artist that was selected this year, so I wanted to put him front and center.
Sure.
And I just love his work. He's an interesting artist in that he did not start painting until he was over 50 years old, that he worked at DSU. He had some health issues. He actually had a double lung transplant and had to retire early, and then turned to artwork. And he puts together these fabulous portraits of people that he thinks have been left out of the record, they've been disadvantaged in some way, and he wants to make sure that they get the visibility that they deserve. So there are portraits, as you said, of Native American figures, of homeless veterans, of civil rights figures that he wants to make sure that they are front and center. And I think he does it in a way that is very joyful. Like one of my favorite paintings in the show is called Keep On Smiling, with these very vibrant colors that just jump off the wall at you.
They absolutely do. When you look at them, you can see the humor and you can see the humanity of the subject. You know, you really feel like you're comfortable looking at it and getting to know it. It's almost like, you know, you paint so that people look, but he knew people would be engaged. And it's amazing after 50 that he came to this talent.
Yes, and has a whole second career in it. I will say one of the challenges of putting together this show is the application process is so long. People apply August the year before. We get a list of the award winners in January, and then we have to put together a checklist. And we are now in late summer looking at this artwork. And the artists produce so much between the time they first apply and the time that the show goes up. So we always have a conversation about what's new, how do you want to present your work, and then they keep producing work after that. So Bryant Bell, even since our show opened, already has a new series of these fabulous women in their church hats that I would love to show at some point in the future.
So you mentioned that there's so much work that they've done. Was there a theme, or it was just kind of like anything goes, whatever you want to submit, you know, you can submit?
This is a little unique among shows that we do in that with each artist we have a conversation about how they want to present their work. And rather than dictate a theme or what they can include, I will tell them linear wall feet, like physically what will fit in our space. You have this much, what would you like to show? And then there's usually a little scrambling on the back end to try to figure out groupings within galleries that will feel like they're having conversations with each other. Like the gallery we're standing in now, across from me I'm looking at work by Connie Madariaga, who is one of the emerging artists, and then behind you is work by Lauren Peters, who is actually one of her mentors and helped her start at the Delaware Contemporary, get herself established in the art scene in Delaware. So you do get generations of artists within the program as well.
So there are so many things that we want to cover, and when we come back, we're going to check out some of the rest of the items in the exhibit. We'll be right back.
I'm Alexandra Deutsch, Director of Collections at Winterthur, and I love the arts on the 302.
Welcome back. We are at the Biggs Museum talking about the Delaware Division of the Arts Fellowship and Award winners. I'm joined by Laura Fravel. Now, Laura, these pieces behind us remind me, even though they're very modern, they remind me of those hair wreaths and things from back in the day. Do you remember those?
Oh, Victorian mourning jewelry, where people would make these elaborate pictures based on hair.
Yeah.
Yes, I know what you mean. We have a few of those actually downstairs on our second floor in our historic collection.
Oh, really? Oh, well, I'm going to have to check those out. But tell me a little bit about Charlize Phillips. I mean, this really is fascinating.
Yes, she's actually one of our emerging artists this year. She, going into the pandemic, did some craft on the side. She didn't really paint, and then took up weaving and started doing these interesting, it's a portrait that's woven into the piece. So it has this elaborate support system behind it to help keep it suspended.
Now, I say this all the time in the show. I always have this urge to touch things. You're not supposed to. I know, I've learned the hard way, but this has so much texture and so much going on that it really, it invites you to, if you can't touch it with your fingers, just to get real close and look at it.
Yes, and she uses a variety of yarns too, so it does have a lot of interesting texture in person, and she puts in there embellished bits of old jewelry, feathers. So in person, it does kind of have a shimmer. It has a three-dimensional presence.
It certainly does. And I notice in this self-portrait that she's kind of like, there's lots of texture with the paint itself, like in her braids. It's really pretty.
It is. The painting itself is three-dimensional, as you said, and this is interesting to me in that she has a found frame, and she used that as the loom on the back to make the weaving, so it's woven into that structure. Here we have a self-portrait of her. Next to her, Cecilia, this smaller round portrait, is actually her grandmother. So here we're in a corner that's celebrating her family. Mostly what she used in her application materials and what she's been producing recently is images of Black women that she admires, creative professionals. Like behind you we have Michaela Cole. I know one of her recent paintings is of Quinta Brunson of Abbott Elementary fame.
Yeah, it's a great show.
Yes, but also showing these women not as the characters they portray on TV, but as creative professionals themselves. It's often kind of how they would style their hair for an award ceremony, and then this wonderful weaving becomes the dress or the setting around them.
It really is breathtaking when you look at it, and just think about all the work that had to go into it, and that she just started painting. I mean, it's amazing. She had to have been doing it before because it's just so good.
She is fabulous. She's a teacher in Smyrna, and I'm so curious to see what she produces next, if this is where she's starting as an emerging professional.
Absolutely. We're going to have to keep our eye on her. Now, one of the other exhibits are a bunch of self-portraits involving costumes, and they're really cool.
Yes, this is Lauren Peters, who actually started as an emerging professional herself and is now established that she's continued that career in the arts. The Delaware Division of the Arts Fellowship was the launching platform for her to pursue her career full time. She has a background in costume design, a theatrical costume designer, and all of her paintings are self-portraits of herself with these elaborate trappings, with wigs, with dresses, with jewelry, with sunglasses. Yeah. And it's her coming up with all these alter egos and personas of different facets of herself.
Absolutely. It's like she's a kid and she's like playing and really having a good time. It really comes through in her paintings, you know, the different characters, just by looking at the different facial expressions. Now, my favorite is, I guess she's kind of like a Madonna of some sorts with the crown and the peacocks in the back.
Yeah, that one's titled Lilith, and that was her starting to work on a larger scale. Since then, she's gone even bigger, that now all her canvases are over 6 feet. She has a show this summer at the Delaware Contemporary showing those larger canvases, but she keeps getting more ambitious, in part because of the support of this program.
Now, the one with the most attitude is the one with the snake. That is really interesting and cool.
It is. That's got a lot of personality, and I love her use of color too, that she has these complementary colors just contrasting, popping off the canvas. And often she tries to use these frames that, while themselves are not period, look like period frames. So she's playing with kind of different eras, playing with historical costuming as well.
So I have a question. If somebody comes and sees all of this and they're like, that would look great in my living room. I mean, are people able to inquire about purchasing them when this is over, or?
We do not sell work, but we are happy to put people in touch with the artists. All of them have their own websites, Facebook pages where you can reach out to them. And one of the great things about this program is for all the award winners, the Delaware Division of the Arts hires a professional writer to work with them on a biography. And then on their website puts up biographies for each artist. So you know where they're based, you know what their other work looks like. For the musicians, you have samples of their work that you can listen to. And that will live long after the show closes at the museum too, so people can continue to find their work for years to come.
That's amazing. Now, you didn't tell us who won, so we're going to come back and tell you all about that in just a bit.
I'm Rebecca Moore, Director of Somerville Manning Gallery, and I love the creativity of the 302.
Welcome back. We have moved deeper into the exhibit, and I feel like the deeper we go, the more colorful and interesting it gets. It really is cool in here. I want to ask you about Coney. This one right here is really cool. It doesn't really have any color, but the one next to it does, and you really can see kind of a really cool style, like free-flowing and
It is. It's wonderfully vibrant, and she's one of the emerging artists that she's just starting to, I think, figure out her style. So you can see her playing with different forms, playing with line, playing with color. She's just starting to teach as well, and I know that's something that she wants to pursue professionally, and this award helps her to achieve those dreams and possibly go back to school to get her certificate.
Now, you mentioned, that she's discovering. I mean, that is a process that artists go through. I mean, when you look at famous artists, they start one way. They don't always remain the same. They grow, right?
They do, and I think it's rare for artists to get support through that process, especially from any kind of government organization. One thing I enjoy about this show is that the Bigs gets to see some of these artists again over the years, that for some people we are their first museum show, and then we have some people who are more established, who have been around for years, that we get to show their new work, and we're the first ones to show it.
Now, we got to talk about the sculptures. They're really interesting and cool. When you look at them, they're not what you would think they are. You would think that they're just paint, but that's not paint on these sculptures, right?
No, it's encaustic. It's actually wax with pigment. And Ron Meek, the artist, was a beekeeper, which is how he got into wax. He grew up, his family was in the military, so he moved all over the world, lived in Germany for many years, traveled around Europe as a child. And I think that influenced his approach to art, that he got very interested in constructivism and these very abstract forms, these pops of color. Encaustic, I will say, is tricky to work with because it dries so fast. So as soon as you put it on, it starts to dry and you're kind of committed to it. And if you try to fix it, it starts to get kind of wrinkled, it gets thick, it's hard to work with. So you can see, as he's working on these, a level of intention. And it also, for some of these more abstract sculptures, helps to smooth out those hard edges on the wood too, that everything's very slightly rounded and encased by it.
It's always cool to hear the backstory, about the bees and everything, but can you talk to us a little bit just about, the symbolism that he uses? I mean, it's all very, I don't want to say industrial, but it kind of reminds me of that.
I can see why. The two behind us, these two larger pieces, are titled Hammer and Tower, and I do think they have those very kind of strong, rigid forms at their core. Some of the smaller sculptures and cases in the show are a little more free-form. They have titles like Z, and you get a sense of the zigzag playing through the sculpture.
Yeah. And this one in the corner looks like a bow and arrow almost.
It does. It's called Twisted Mast. It kind of reminds me of a boat at sea, that you get those ropes going around.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about the portraits we have over here on this wall. I mean, it's really interesting. You see a lot of I guess, fluidity in these paintings.
Yes, these are by Jill Althouse Wood, who was professionally for more than a decade a textile designer. And then the pandemic, as for many people, forced her to reconsider that. She moved on to think about painting more, to practice her own artistic career. A lot of these focus on forests, and she's interested in the idea of a forest as a cathedral, of these branches coming together. And you'll see a lot of the figures kind of disappearing into the trees. They're a little diaphanous. And I don't know if that comes from that textile career too, of thinking about kind of the qualities of fabric, that a lot of them have these elaborate costumes too. I will mention that both Jill Alteswood and Ron Meek behind me live at Arden, the artistic community outside of Wilmington.
That's amazing. You're talking about the materials. I mean, she really does a great job with just the, you know, the flowing, like two of the women or three of the women are wearing garments that are flowing, and it's just really, you can see what she was going for. They're really, really vibrant, flowing bits of art.
They are, and her figures to me seem so strong and intriguing. And I know that she started talking about trying to do a few just plain landscapes after this. I'm curious to see how she shifts to that, to bring that same kind of personality and vibrancy to the landscapes.
That growth and everything, it really is interesting to see. And when they talk about, you talked about the forest as a temple,
a cathedral.
A cathedral. I mean, just hearing the stories and the motivations and everything, and it's really fascinating when you get a look into an artist's mind, what they're thinking, and you're like, okay, I get that.
Yes, and this show I mentioned earlier, we have a dialogue with the artist about what they want to show. She was one who, when I first reached out, actually emailed me photos of works in progress to talk about where she was going with her work. Like Raymond, this one that we're looking at right now across the room, was one that I saw when it was just the bare bones on the canvas, and then I got to see it come together over the months when we were planning the show.
And this is the one with the sunglasses?
The sunglasses,
nice.
Yes. Yeah.
Pink sunglasses, it's a thing. So if somebody wants to come and check this out, how long is it on exhibit here?
It's here until September 24th, and I will put in a plug that we are offering free admission this summer for our 30th anniversary.
Oh, so, congratulations.
Yes. Yes, if you want to come see the show, admission is free. The show after us will get downsized a little bit and then travel to Cab Calloway School of the Arts in Wilmington, that we try to make sure that these artists are shown in every county in Delaware.
Now, before we go, you got to tell us, who are the winners of the Delaware Division of the Arts?
It is a long list. I think we had close to 20 winners this
Wow.
year, between the literary, the film, the visual. The two masters this year, and that's that big cash award, $12,000, were Tahira, who does oral storytelling, and then Be Proud, that photographer that we looked at in the first gallery.
Nice. Well, we'll have to come down and check it out. Laura, thank you. It's a pleasure, as always, to come and visit you.
Yes, and thank you for coming, and please come visit the Bigs.
All righty, we'll be right back. These guys are crazy creative, right? Are you enjoying the show? If you happen to visit the Biggs Museum to check it out, make sure you snap a couple of pictures and post them on our Facebook page. Now, here are some other things you might want to check out. Information on any of the exhibits here at the Biggs Museum, visit biggsmuseum.org. That'll do it for this week's episode of The 302. Make sure you follow us on Facebook for a ton of behind-the-scenes information and photos and videos you're not going to see anywhere else. We're going to leave you with some beauty shots of Dover. Until next time, I'm Jackie Ferris. Tell them you saw it on The 302.